And welcome to Between the Posts. Tommy Javor, your host. This week, joined by the man, Matt Gale. Welcome, brother.
Thanks very much, Tommy. Wonderful to be with you on this beautiful winter's day.
Yes, don't you start complaining about the cold like every other commentator did yesterday. Now, you're a man of many hats, obviously the Breakthrough Mental Health one right now. But you're our Div 2 expert, so you picked Coach of the Week. You, of course, are out commentating yesterday, Port District, we'll get to that. But footy's a small place. You're also the 1996 Under-19 Premiership Ruckman, formerly known as the Mad Russian.
Yes.
What? Is this all truth?
That is all correct. Unfortunately, you've done a bit of digging. I like it.
Didn't have to dig hard, mate. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
How good? Left footer as well?
Left footer? Yeah.
You've mellowed in your old age.
I have mellowed a little bit in my old age.
1996, back in the VHS days. Back when the Crows won stuff.
Exactly.
So, beautifully done. Just tell us quickly, mate, Port District yesterday, has the giant awoken?
They have. They've locked themselves in for top three for me. They absolutely suffocated Teachery Gully down there yesterday at large reserve. They were instrumental with their movement behind the ball. I thought they were really well structured, putting Lewis Sharrod just pops around the back as an extra defender. They link up well. Their forward line structure was very, very sound. They just dominated in what was absolute mudbath. Yep,
and back-to-back wins at Largs. Of course, all our regular segments are on the show. I'm on, Beck is on. The great man doing Div 2 today. Thanks for subbing in. Obviously, in order, it would have been Div 6 or 7, but we brought you forward because it's an exciting time in Division 2.
Lovely, thank you.
And we've got a little bit to talk about that we'll talk about in Division 2 because in a couple of weeks, all Div 2 games we stream live, we'll cover that in your segment. But
yeah, certainly will. What I was really impressed with yesterday, and it's an outstanding piece of data, was that all 5 away teams won yesterday. I don't think that's occurred across any of the 7 divisions thus far this season, so that was a pretty impressive start.
You wouldn't think so. Of course, we'll have the goals and marks of the week, the coach of the week, all that and so much more. Stay tuned for more Between the Posts. Welcome to Division 1 wrap, and round 11 is in the books. Once again, a couple of upsets with 2 of the top 5 being defeated. One of those teams was Payneham, who hosted the Stream Team game against Sacred Heart at Payneham Oval. Payneham 4 goals, 226, Sacred Heart 6-12, 48. The player we're going to have a look at today is Seb Kerrish from Sacred Heart, absolute star of the day. Let's look at the goal kickers as well. There's only one multiple goal kicker all day. It was Jackson Fox from Sacred Heart with 2 goals in a very low-scoring game. Speaking to Adam Jeffries, our Div 1 expert and commentator of the game yesterday, interesting to note just how little Payneham did score. They kicked 4 goals and 2 points, and the 2 points were rushed. So again, the defensive prowess of Sacred Heart is proving pivotal in their tilt at a Div 1 premiership. Let's have a look at some of our great prizes, of course, from a Stream Team game. The Mosey Voucher Best Team Man was Clayton Simons, the dynamic wingman there, and captain. The Magic Moment was Zach Sanderson. Congratulations to Zach. And, of course, our best on ground, the man that took home all the prizes, was Seb Kerrish. It was a real arm wrestle, and Adam Jeffries was very clear in saying it was cold. It was real cold. It was Alaskan-like cold. Sacred Heart led by 3, 5, 20 and 22. Payneham really weren't able to get any offence going. What might be a Matty Nunn injury certainly curtailed his influence. Better players to PNU were the Scrigger brothers, Sam and Felix. Let's have a look at our Player of the Year votes. It was 1 vote to big Alex Carlotto, 2 votes to Clayton Simons, and 3 votes to Seb Kerrish. That Sacred Heart machine just keeps on rolling. They start with defence and they get you going the other way. They're a very, very strong unit. They're really galvanised. And again, they are the sleeping giant in Division 1. Our next game was Brighton and PAC. Brighton 8-19-67, PAC 4 goals, 6-30. A wonderful 37-point win there for the Bombers. Our player in footage is number 14 from Brighton, Jake Tarker. He kicked 3 goals, and along with Will Rivers, who chimed in for his usual 2 goals. No multiple goal scorers for PAC. It wasn't the Brighton's way all day, as PAC did lead by 12 points at quarter time, but then Brighton kicked into gear, leading at half-time by 4 points, three-quarter time by 25, ultimately to run out 37-point winners. So after quarter time, it was 8 goals 16 to 2 goals 3, just speaking to the dominance of how Brighton controlled the game. They played wet weather footy really well. They were strong and contested. They took the grass when they needed to. They soccer when they had to. Very, very good team performance. Of course, Brighton, a huge junior program with 600 juniors, and because of that, the ground does chop up. It was heavy, but they played a far superior brand of wet weather footy. Big news for the Bombers as well. They are off the bottom of the ladder, and they're now just half a game off of 6th place. Better players who didn't make the votes, well, Brighton thought that Ricky O'Loughlin was outstanding. Also, PAC Schmid and the Percolator were amongst their best. And our votes time for Player of the Year, well, you know who's going to get one vote. He gets one vote every week. Otis Carthy, the captain, fantastic. Tim Dixon was second best, and that man we've been looking at earlier on, Jake Tarker, was best on ground. A huge win for Brighton. Once again, these wins can separate the difference between potential finals and relegation. Well done to Mouse and the team. Our next one was at Broadview Oval, where Broadview took on the juggernaut of Glenunga. And I wasn't expecting it, but it was a 75-point win to Glenunga. I didn't think it would blow out like that. 5-3-33, Glenunga 16-12, 108. Our player we're going to have a look at is Tully Kennett, the dynamic midfielder. Real good, strong tackler, workhorse, and just is everywhere. Covers a lot of territory for the Rams. One of the real key components in that midfield. Let's look at the goal kickers, and interesting to note, Johnny Boris kicked 4 for Broadies out of 5. They were all in the first half, whilst Abe Davis kicked 4 for the Rams. It was Glenunga by 16 points at quarter time, 17 at the half, and then they kicked into true Glenunga type football. 7 goals, 3 to 1 point. And it was Broadview kicking just 2 points in the second half. That's not good enough in Div 1, and it won't win you Div 1 games. The ruck battle was quite fascinating. Big Westie against Anyang. Westie got the better of him eventually, but it was actually a really good game within a game, the way these two lock horns. Well done to both players. One of the big ins as well, we've seen, he was leading player of the year for a large portion of last year, and he is back. The tip rat, Bowie Schwartz. He's back from Darwin. Look out, Div 1 teams. He's creative, he's fast, he's clever, and he'll always kick a goal each week. He kicked 3. Interesting to note as well, because you know the dialogue, it's just so familiar every time the team starts dominating Div 1, how much cash they're splashing. Just looking at the Glenunga team, 7 of them played, back when I was coaching Glenunga, played B grade, so they have developed from within, strong junior program. Obviously they have some recruits, but it's a shout out, not just to, we talk about Nathan Graham all the time, but Chris Aston, who coached the B grade last year, and Sam Abel, who coached the B grade this year, doing a great job after having some tough shoes to fill. So well done to everyone at the club. They're just doing great things, and you can't help but admire whether you're on the inside or out. They're 11-0, and they are rightly so the premiership favourites. All right, let's have a look at our next game, and it was Spock and Golden Grove, and it was a thriller. It was Spock 8-10-58, Golden Grove 8-11-59. The man we're going to look at is Lockie Pascoe, number 24 for Golden Grove. The reason we're looking at him is he kicked 5 of the best. 5 snags out of 8. That's a big day for the big forward, whilst Harvey George was the only multiple goal scorer for Spock with 2 goals. Spock probably had control of the game. They led by 14. They led by 17 at the half, 11. But then it was Pascoe who kicked 2 final quarter goals that got the narrowest of margins for the Kookaburras. Spock actually led by as much as 21 as well at some point in the day, the commentators' notes tell me. Better players for Spock, who didn't get the votes. Charlie Allen continues his good, consistent year. Whilst that man, I'm not making this up, he's a star. He puts the team on his back. That man, Jordan Lockwood, again, controlled the rucks. Well done, Big Jord. For Golden Grove, I'm going to give Aidan Thatcher a mention because I know he watches the show and he's been playing well, and he's not one of the bigger names, but he was certainly the best. And let's have a look at the votes. It was 1 vote to Hamish Allen, brother of Charlie, obviously, for Spock. 2 votes to Jake Pittman, again, another dynamic midfielder who's won medals because he's just a ball magnet. And that man, Lachlan Pascoe, best on ground. Again, this one now puts Golden Grove up to 6. I think it's the highest they've been. And they just now within striking distance. 1 more good win will see them in the 5 for the first time this year. For Spock, at home, losing by a point, it's a case of so close, but not quite. Again, they're still in the mix. They could still play finals, but it puts them right in the relegation conversation now. And our last game saw the awakening of a giant. Port District 16-14-110, Tea Tree Gully 3 goals 6-24. It's a huge 86-point win there for Dizzies. The Hef is back, and he kicked 4 goals along with Sam McKay, and Sam McKay is the man we're going to have a look at in the footage, number 21 for Port District. Looking at the notes, it was a 44-point lead at the half, so Port really did control the game. The scoreline tells a story. They were stronger in defence. They had attacking weapons. They had intense pressure around the ball, the commentators' notes tell me. And in what were appalling conditions with the wind and the breeze and rain, and it was cold, yes, every commentator told me it was cold. Port District were able to overcome all of that and just play some really good, strong, contested footy. Better players to appear that weren't in the votes were Scotty Lysette and Sam Gray, a couple of pretty handy ones right there, both ex-Port Power players. Whilst the Tea Tree Gully, Alton continues a fantastic year and had another good game, and Martin also very good. On to the votes now. Louis Sharrod for the second time in 2 weeks gets in the votes. He had 1 vote. Joe Haynes picks up another 2 votes in the Player of the Year, and best on ground was that man, Sam McKay. A strong win for Port District. I just still waiting when he really fully hit their straps. That's 2 wins in a row at home now. Maybe they're coming. Let's have a very quick look at Player of the Year, and you can see there's some great names up there, and the top 3 really standing out: Abe Davis, Joey Haynes, and Matty Nunn. And the ladder, it always makes interesting reading. It's pretty much business as usual up the top. We know that, Glenunga, Sacred Heart, Port. But then really interesting to see in such a close ladder, PNU and PAC both had bad losses, but both stay in the 5. They can't afford another one, or Golden Grove, Tea Tree Gully or Broadies could all pounce. The alarming thing for PAC is probably that percentage, under 45%. Tea Tree Gully, Payneham, Golden Grove, all in the 48%, could all leapfrog them easily. And at the moment, this time of year, you cannot afford big losses, and you can't afford that percentage to take a hit. For me, the team that sits out the 5 that looks the most likely to come in is Golden Grove. I just think they're starting to find their football. The list suggests that they probably should be higher than where they are, and I think they're coming. All right, let's look at this week's games. Tea Tree Gully and PNU, these are always great games at Pertaringa. There's not too many better places to watch footy than Pertaringa, especially if you're in your car in winter. You can park there and you get a great view of the ground. This one's incredibly tough to tip. It's guesswork, to be honest with you. It's Tea Tree Gully can take Paynham's spot if they beat them. I'm not sure. If Matty Nunn plays, I'd suggest Paynham. If he doesn't, I'd take Tea Tree Gully. Big battle, I guess it is actually the stream team match of the round. It's Glenunga versus Port. That is going to be huge. Have Port truly arrived? Now, I commentated this game last year at Webb Oval with Adam Jeffries, and Glenunga won by 21 goals. We were sat there making cloud shapes because the game just did not live up to the hype. But I think this one just might. Can Port inflict Glenunga's first loss of the year? Not at Webb Oval, I don't think. I'll take Glenunga. Sacred Heart and Spock, a tale of 2 teams at opposite ends of the ladder. It'll be closer than that, though. Spock are very, very consistent. Probably the most consistent 10th place team I've seen. I don't think they'll have the weapons, though, to get past that Sacred Heart watertight defence. I'll take the Shockers for mine. PAC versus Broadies. It's 5th versus 8th. Broadies must bounce back. They must win. Last time these 2 teams played was on Anzac Day. I had the pleasure of commentating that, and Broadies lit it up. They were fantastic that day. They smoked PAC. There's a bit of heat in the game as well. Be interesting to see how this one plays out. At Park 9, you'd think maybe PAC, but I'm going to go with the Tigers just to have the edge over them. And our last one is Golden Grove and Brighton. I honestly, truly believe Brighton could beat pretty much anyone in the league except maybe Glenunga or Sacred Heart. But they now need to take the scalp of Golden Grove. They need to take it to get out of the relegation zone. And Golden Grove just can't have one of those games where they let one get away from them. Golden Grove have to put the foot on the throat this week, and I think they might. Golden Grove to move into the 5 for the first time this year by the end of the round. Hope you enjoyed the Division 1 report. We'll be back next week.
Get a quick and easy low-rate car loan from Police Credit Union today.
Alright, it's time for the Division 1 Women's Wrap. I'm Beck Northcott and I'm here to take you through all the Division 1 action and beyond. Now, this was probably our first weekend of real winter footy across the whole city. plenty of rain, mud, all those winter conditions that we know and love probably have taken over at most ovals by now. But let's see how it all played out in Division 1 for the women. We will start off with Golden Grove and Goodwood Saints. Now, I said I was looking forward to the result of this game and how it all played out. And Golden Grove, well, they've really had a score to settle after a disappointing result in the 2023 Grand Final where they went down to Goodwood in Division 2. Now, Golden Grove, I think they have well and truly faced their demons. They have made it 2 from 2 wins over the Saints for the year in Division 1. Golden Grove 6-8-44 defeated Goodwood 3-5-23, a 21-point win for the Kookaburras. Now, it was a good day at home for Golden Grove, who led at every quarter, and they held the Saints to 1-4 at three-quarter time. Now, the goals for Golden Grove came from Dakota White with 2, Emma Baker, Sophie Beavis, Eileen Heibner and Shakaya Wilkie, they all kicked singles. Now, the best on for Golden Grove was Tali Borges, and she is having a great season back at Golden Grove after debuting at Centrals in the Sandford W earlier in the year. It is always great to see local club girls going and succeeding at a high level and then coming back and doing well for their club as well. And she has played all of her juniors at Golden Grove as well. So an exciting season for Tali. Now, over at Goodwood, their goals came from Amelia Agar, Emma Chappell and Briella Egberts. Their best on was Briella Egberts. She's a member of the leadership group at the Goodwood Saints, and she was clearly doing her best to lead by example in this game. For the Goodwood Saints, well, they're still clear into third position at the moment on the ladder. They would have preferred not to drop that game, but it clearly just wasn't their day. 1 goal to three-quarter time is just not ideal. I'm sure they've got plenty of things to work on, and now they will just focus on having a strong run for those last few games and their run into finals. Now, moving on to Morphettville Park and Smosh, who faced off at Kellett Reserve, the home of the Roos. Now, it was the Morphy Park Roos by 76 points in a really convincing performance. Now, they started strong in the first quarter with 3 goals to and keeping Smosh scoreless. And they really didn't stop, putting on 3 goals for in the second to Smosh's single goal. And they finished off really strongly with a 4-goal final term. Now, of course, plenty of Morphy's girls on the scoreboard, 7 goal scorers for them. They were led by a 3-goal haul to 2 players, Katie Murdoch and Caitlin Swanson. So they were having an absolute day out. Backed up by a run of singles through Megan Harper, Sophie Hoyle, Tessa Cohn, Elizabeth Probyn Shingles and Cammy Williams. Now, their best on was Katie Murdoch, and I'm sure her 3 goals contributed to that. Smosh's goal, well, that came through Bridie Dolan, and their best on was Kate Walsh. Now, we know it's been a bit of a rough year for Smosh on the scoreboard. They're a very proud club, strong juniors. We know they've got Erin Phillips down there coaching the under-8, so I'm sure they've got plenty of juniors to come through in the next few years, and they will keep fighting out the season. Now, over to Morphettville Park, well, after a bit of a slower start to the year than they would have liked, they now sit in 4th position by percentage with 4 wins. They're definitely looking a lot more consistent, and I think it's because their lineup's probably settled down. They've worked out which players they're going to have for the year and have just really been able to find some form altogether. It will be really interesting to see how they finish the season, because if Morphy's finish in the top 4, we know that absolutely anything could happen. Now, Division 1 have got a little bit of a split fixture over the next couple of weeks. So Payneham and Broadview will face off next week as the only Division 1 women's game. Their game will be at Payneham. I'd probably expect Payneham to get up in that one. You know, they're currently sitting in second, very good side. Now, Henley have the bye this round, so it looks like they have a couple of weeks off. They still sit in top spot with only 1 loss for the year. So it's still looking like that race between Payneham and Henley at the top of the ladder, but truly anything could happen in the coming weeks. So we will keep an eye on the ladder, and I will, of course, keep you updated with how things are going there. Now, let's have a little bit of a look at what's happening in the other women's footy divisions. Now, straight to Division 2. Well, I was excited to see Flinders Park get their first win of the season with a 23-point win over Westminster. It is always good to see a team get their first points of the year because it can be pretty rough when you haven't had a win yet. So well done, Flinders Park, getting a win there on the weekend. Now, there was also a little bit of a goal bonanza in Hope Valley's win over Lockleys with a huge 8 goals to Hayley Tahini and 5 to Tamsin Nation. So goals all over the place there for Hope Valley. They're having an awesome season. Now across to Division 6, and Ingle Farm enjoyed an 85-point win at Roe Park while celebrating an 100-game milestone by one of their players, Jamie Smith. Now 100 is a huge milestone, especially in women's footy, and Jamie even celebrated it with a goal. I love to see women's footy players achieving things like this. It takes real commitment to get to those kind of numbers of games. So well done, Jamie, and well done, Ingle Farm, for getting the win for her 100th game. Well, that's all for this week's Women's Wrap. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.
Time for our Coach of the Week. Thanks to Matty Gale for his nomination of the Div 2 Coach of the Week, and it is Damien Boots from Ross Trevor Old Collegians. He's done an amazing job, and coming off 7 consecutive wins in a row, they now sit top by percentage and have announced themselves in the league. He's doing great things at the club, and he's our Farmers League Coach of the Week. Welcome back to Between the Posts. All you Div 2 fans, strap yourself in because Matt Gale is here and we're going to have a deep dive.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tommy. As I mentioned just a little bit earlier, all 5 away teams winning yesterday. It was a huge piece of data that was a real rarity across the Adelaide Footy League, particularly across the 7 divisions.
A statistical anomaly, we might say.
We would call it a statistical anomaly. We'll go to the first game, Flinders Park, back in the top 5. Defeating Old Iggy's by 23 points. Just a couple of takes from each game, Tommy.
Yeah.
Can Flinders Park maintain their age and stay in the top 5? That's probably the $64,000 question. We'll have a little bit of a deep dive down that Warren very, very shortly. But will Old Iggy stay up or stay down? It's the first time they've been in the bottom 2 years, so they're hovering around relegation for the second time in 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Very inaccurate Salisbury North yesterday with 6 goals, 16. I get say top 4 teams or top 5 teams get about 3 or 4 chances a year to win ugly, and that was one of them. Ended up winning by 13 points against on the improved Foss Ken. Salisbury North obviously did enough after losing against Rocks last week by 52 points. But 12 goals, 28 the past 2 weeks, so they need to rectify their kicking in front of goal, which is a bit of a natural phase of the season with this wet weather. Foss Ken, average age of 21 years old, definitely on the improve, and they beat.
Is that a fact?
Yeah, no. I got it from filming footy Tony Neal last night. He was quickly on the blower.
Sounded made up.
So Foss Ken, an average age of 21 years old, beat Modbury in round 10 just last week. And is there more scalps, or will they go down? So that's what's on the cards there. Or flip the coin in the script there. And they're only 2 games out of the 5. So a lot to look forward to from the boys from Foss Ken and for the remainder of this season. Atherstone demolished Edwardstown by a whopping 110 points. Mitch Grigg, BOG with 4 goals. Lock him in for 3 votes there, and Raggy's 4 on the trot in cruise mode at the minute.
Are they the smoky? I don't want to.
I think they will be. Yeah, Edwardstown is their 4th 100-point loss for the season. they've actually got a chance to finish off the year in style. Round 18, they'll match up against Old Iggy's at home. And hopefully they can break their duck on that occasion, the last game of the season. Or before. Hopefully before, but that'll be the last roll of the dice there. Modbury bouncing back in style this week with an impressive second half demolition of Adelaide Uni by 49 points. How deep can Modbury go in December is really up to them, and how can they match it against those big three, which we'll talk about. Adelaide Uni have won every first quarter since round 6. Can they concur their inconsistency? So it's probably been their downfall as inconsistency within games, but particularly after quarter time.
Starting games well, they give yourself every chance.
Yeah, they do. So they didn't really do too much in the first 5 rounds, but the last, since round 6, they've won every quarter, first quarter for the game. Okay, Ross Trevor set up their 35-point victory against Goodwood Saints with the 5 goals to goalless Goodwood Saints at quarter time. Amazingly, 15 scoring shots each with a 9-goal 6 to 2 goals 13. So Goodwood Saints actually kicked themselves out of the game when they were in front of the big sticks. Ross Trevor, equal premiership favourites for mine at the moment. 7 victories on the trot, and they'll face off against Raggies in round 13, which is away. Hopefully they can confirm whether they're the premiership real deal. Time for the Goodwood Saints, however, to step up to the plate, because so far this season it's been up and down like a yo-yo. And
sitting 6th, mate. They're not.
It's now or never.
Yep.
It's now or never. Goodwood Saints.
They need to do something, that's for sure.
Thank you very much for joining us for Division 2. We're going to go through our round 12 predictions, Tommy.
All right.
Now,
I get tipped, do I?
We do. Now, as we mentioned earlier, there was 5 away teams that won in Division 2 on Saturday. This week, I think all the home teams are going to win. Let's go through each individual game. Ross Trevor coming up against Foss Camden. First versus 8th in round 3. The Rocks got the Chocolates by 16 points. Tommy, I'm going to go with Ross Trevor, Old Clesions, by 8 goals plus in this encounter.
I think you're spot on, mate. Weather conditions pending, but I'd say 6 to 8 goals. Not 68, 6 to 8.
Third place, Atherton takes on Goodwood Saints. Atherton with an 8-3 record. Goodwood Saints just below the 50% marker at the moment with 5-6. Back in round 3, Goodwood Saints snuck home by 5 points on their home deck. Tommy Javor, how do you see this playing out?
They won't be sneaking home this time with names like Grigg, Lonigan and Randa. I think Athelston are really starting to come to the party, and they'll win and win well.
Yeah, I've got Raggies only by 17, but I think it'll be a very muddy deck, and that's the only reason why. But Goodwood Saints need to improve on their previous form. Second place, Salisbury North, and with a 9-2 record, will take on Adelaide Uni. Back in round 3, Salisbury North won away by 39 points. I'm going to go with Salisbury North by plenty. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, more of the same. Probably a similar margin to last time, about 39 points. Salisbury North maybe just having that little calm before the storm of August, September hits, and just got to keep ticking the boxes and getting the wins at this stage, and they're doing that.
Yeah, they've had a bit of a mid-season slump.
A lull, but when you're sitting second, it's a good lull.
Yeah, it's a little speed bump on the whole trajectory of things.
A blip in the radar.
A little blip on the radar. Flinders Park in 5th position, taking on Edwardstown, obviously winless at this stage of the season. Back in round 3, Flinders Park. Little convincing win, but not the big margin to suspect that it would take place around this time of the year, but only 26 points back in round 3. What's the margin going to be, Tommy?
Yeah, Flinders Park. You don't want to be disrespectful to a great club like Athelston, but Flinders Park by 10 to 15 goals for mine.
Or Edwardstown.
What did I say?
You said Athelston.
I've got Athelston on the mind, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, Flinders Park, write your own ticket. The last game of round 12, Modbury will take on Old Iggy's. Modbury in 4th position. Old Iggy's slumped down to 9th. Back in round 3, Modbury just got the Chocolates there by 12 points. Tell me, how do you see this one?
Modbury have always been a very strong team at home, and I'd expect them to put to the sword. I don't see too many close games this week in Div 2, mate.
No, neither do I. I'm going to go Modbury by 39 plus. Now, just a little ladder predictor, as we do on our AFL apps. We were allowed to do that, but we don't have that sort of device at our disposal in Division 2. I've just run the numbers, Tommy, and this obviously can play out any given way. At the moment, I've got Salisbury North finishing the season with a 15-3 record. Ross Trevor, Old Clesions and Athelston will finish equal 2nd and 3rd there with a 14-4. Then it starts getting a little bit interesting. I've got Modbury finishing with an 11-7 record. Now, the game breaker and the sealed dealer of this top 5 will see Goodwood Saints taking on Flinders Park in round 13, which will be covered by our stream teams. This will decide the top 5 for me, Tommy.
Yep.
And I actually think Goodwood Saints will win that at home, which leaves them with a 9-9 record, and Flinders Park will slump. Making up the minors, Adelaide Uni will finish with 7-11 in my book. Foss Camden on the improve, only to 6-12. Old Iggy's will go down with a 4-14, and Edwardstown, I think, will go winless for this season.
Very interesting stuff there, mate. Now, the other big thing happening in Division 2, so depending on when you're watching this, on July 13th, there is no Division 1 game. So obviously we cover all streams of Division 1. But your division, Division 2, all 5 games will be streamed live that day. And obviously you can watch it after the game as well.
Yeah, it's going to be an outstanding weekend and giving some much-needed coverage to our Division 2 teams. We went out to Salisbury North a couple of rounds ago. And I know that Tony Neal did the Salisbury North and Foss Camden game yesterday. So there is the odd game being broadcast and covered at the moment, but to give some spotlight on our Division 2 teams is a spectacular result.
Beautifully done, Matty. That was a beautiful look at Division 2. All things Division 2. You've done an outstanding job as always. And good luck when Div 2 takes centre stage on the 13th of July.
More importantly, good luck to all our Division 2 teams for the remainder of the season. There's plenty of 4-point games on the line in the coming weeks.
And we'll see you just before finals, I think.
We certainly will. Looking forward to bringing up a pre-finals wrap.
Fantastic.
Predictions.
Stay tuned for more Between the Posts.
You belong in blue. Apply for a career with South Australia Police.
It's everybody's favourite segment on Between the Posts. It's time for the goals and marks of the week.
Tapped over the top cleverly there by Perks. Josh Perks this time as they make their way forward, looking for the kick away. Has a shot from about 50, travels over everyone's head, but right over the umpire's head.
Hawkins, high up and under, going inside forward 50. Oh, what a beautiful Bianco mark of the week contender.
Finds Carthy. Carthy into the forward line over the top of everyone. Nice mark.
So that was Dodson who took that mark. And I
Great
think that's a mark paid, yep.
Sanson.
And it's time for What Caught Our Eye. But it's just me this week, so I guess we might as well call it What Caught My Eye. And I've gone with a theme because I'm alone. I'm not going to be able to have a chat with anyone about it. And the theme is upset. So I've looked through the 7 divisions at what was the biggest upset from each division and if there was any. So we'll start in Division 1 where Brighton, with their 37-point win over PAC. Now, I just want to shout out as well, Jad Gosson, who was on the show last week with his Div 6 report, actually tipped this one. Pretty courageous tipping a team that's 10th to beat a team that's 5th. But well done. Ricky O'Loughlin was named best and Jake Tarka kicked 3. It's a big win for the Bombers and helps them in their fight to avoid relegation and battle towards finals in such a tight competition. All right, in Division 2, there was no upsets based on what we've seen so far this season, but one thing that pre-season would have looked an upset is Goodwood at home kicking 2 goals 13, going down to Ross Trevor. The Saints now sit 6th, and again, it wasn't something that people thought would happen at the start of the year. The biggest upset in Division 3 was, and we talked about this one a lot with Tim Pillion, Seaton. They had to play all their games in the first half of the year away, and now they're at home, and they're actually struggling to get on the board with wins. And it was Hope Valley who got them this week. It was Seaton 11-8, Hope Valley 12-10. Maddie Min, 4 goals in a best on-ground display, and it creates a very interesting ladder where 5th, 6th and 7th are all just separated by a half a game. It was a huge win for Hope Valley as they move above Pembroke, and they are nipping at Seaton's heels for that spot in the final. There was no upsets in Division 4, so I've gone with the closest game, and it was the game we thought would have probably had the biggest gap. Top place Kilburn against ninth place Jeps Cross, and it was just a narrow 17-point win at Blair Athol Reserve for the Chicks. Nick Pearce is back. It's great to see the man they call Big Greasy or the neck clicker. He is back and playing for Kilburn. That will only make them even stronger. In Division 5, it was 7th place Trinity who caused the upset. They knocked off 3rd place Greenacres by 27 points at home. Lachlan Wilkins was best on ground and Aaron Reid kicked 3 majors for the Tossers. A good win for them. Keeps their finals chances alive. Again, no upsets in Division 6. Things went really according to script, but there was nearly the upset of the year. Some might even say the decade. Elizabeth, so close. St Paul's 8-10-58, Elizabeth 7-4-46, a 12-point win for St Paul's, and there would have been a bit of this stuff going on. Riley Jimmy Hendricks was best, and great to see Taylor Charlton, young fellow I used to coach who's not that young anymore, former Broadview and Payneham player in the best players as well. In Division 7, now Division 7 hasn't provided too many upsets all year. Again, there was no upsets. So I just want to shift focus on that one and say well done to O'Sullivan's Beach Lonsdale on their 33-point win over Mawson Lakes. For the 8th year in a row, they've done a reconciliation round. They have a jumper. Coach Michael Dean doing great things, and it's a great thing they do there. So well done to the boys from down O'Sullivan's Beach. This has been What Caught Our Eye this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. And it's time to say farewell. Matty, have you had fun today?
I've had an absolute ball, Tommy, and thank you very much for allowing me to spend some precious time with you.
Always a pleasure, the Mad Russian. Of course, we thank all of our wonderful sponsors, and this segment is brought to you by SAPOL, the Australian Police Department. Good game yesterday at Port District. You know where you are next week? Probably shouldn't ask.
No, the roster hasn't been filled out just yet. But
Div 1 next week and Div 2 the following week after that. You've been doing great things, mate. Now you're going to get off. You're going to play a bit of footy today, aren't you? You silly old man.
Yeah, well, I've worn the coach's hat. I've been in here with a sore throat doing some wonderful work with you, and then I'm about to go and kick 5 sausage rolls down at Happy Valley this afternoon, hopefully. In the Masters. And again, 1996 Premiership player, glutton for punishment, still going around. And we go around and we do this because we love it, and we know all of you love it. Thanks to all of our Adelaide Footy League stakeholders. We're back next week with more Between the Posts.